just give you guys my own opinion on stress management. And I think there's a lot of really good tools and information out there, but I want to give you my perspective coming from somebody who just has had a hard time dealing with the physical symptoms of stress and anxiety throughout my life. Even though I would consider myself somebody who lives in a very comfortable environment working from home, I developed basically my whole career and life around my ability to be able to be in that environment so that I could handle things a little bit better. When I was working in the gyms hours and hours a day, I was probably in physically the most unwell I'd ever been in my life, just feeling drained by people around me. And I would kind of always blame myself for why I wasn't able to cope with things. And then in stressful situations, whether they were good or bad, I tended to have a really hard time managing it and dealing with it, and just could not bounce back. And even now, having several days where I feel great and have great mental clarity and energy, it'll then always follow by a period of mental or physical exhaustion, no matter if that stress is good or bad. I did do somatic healing work for 6 months, which was amazing, and it was helpful. The part that I want to explain, though, is from a biological standpoint. It wasn't until I saw my genetics and the way that my body processes and handles stress and many of the variants that I have that really explained to me why it is that I have that. And it was honestly very freeing and reassuring to understand that it wasn't really something that I could control, that it wasn't like, oh hey, I'm just gonna sit here in meditation and whatever and it's gonna fix it all. And I think we put too much pressure on people to be the one to fix their own stress, and a lot of times it's not really that as much as it is just the person's biology that is keeping them stuck or disallows them to be able to cope with or handle stress in the way that they should be able to manage it. For example, I had Tourette's as a kid, anxiety, OCD, depression, all the things. I never associated those things with myself as I got older, but I still had all these coping mechanisms that I did have it rooted in my body, and I was still having a lot of these symptoms just in different ways than I had when I was younger. And it led me to create the environments and a lot of these things that I had to deal with. But under stressful conditions, having methylation problems and all these other issues, your body burns through resources quicker. Your body, for me, having adrenal cortex issues or issues in the pituitary, where under stressful conditions, my body does not recover the same as other people. And it's not an excuse, but it goes to show that different layers and layering several different kinds of biological processes together can show somebody who has a harder time dealing with certain things. So the goal isn't to be perfect and never have stress or never be exhausted. It is to manage it in the best way possible. And there are many ways that we can do this. Certain things that actually go in to help heal some of these receptors and neurological pathways, give us some of the resources that our body's missing in order to cope with that and have a less stress response when it comes to some of those things. So people talk about the vagal tone and the vagal nerve and trauma. Okay, yes, all those things do cause issues with managing stress and anxiety, but if you also have a lot of neurodivergence and neurological things going on rooted in your biology, not just your lifestyle, it will keep you in a state of fight or flight way more often, to the point where it becomes way harder than most people to manage that stress and to keep yourself in a good place. And so understanding where your system has some of these variants and what they are, and if you burn through resources too quickly or if you pool resources too slowly, goes a long way in giving your system the stuff that it needs and that it's missing in order to process a lot of these aminos, neurotransmitters, these pathways in the best way possible. And again, these certain variations differ person to person, which is why I go in and actually look at each person's biology and their processes to help them figure out the best map for their system in order to manage their stress, but just their mental wellness, their energy, their vitality, in the best way possible.